Hello everyone, I'm Mustafa Kamal Joy, and today I want to talk about a book that has deeply disturbed me, moved me, and stayed with me long after I turned the last page. The book is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. Being honest, one of the main reason I picked this book was because it won the Booker Prize in 1997, and also my teacher Nasif Khalid Shadin sir once spoke about Arundhati Roy in a way that really caught my attention. He mentioned how bold and lyrical her writing is, and I wanted to see that for myself. But I have to admit, this was not an easy read for me. It took me time and I struggled with it, not because the language was too complex, but because the emotion was so raw. This book hurt. It felt like peeling back old wounds in places I didn't know existed. Now, let me tell you, this is not a typical story with a clear beginning, middle, and the end. The timeline jumps and the narration shifts, and everything seems scattered at first. But that's actually what I love. Roy is not just telling us a story, she is making us feel the way trauma works, disjointed, fragmented, and heavy. This novel revolves around a pair of twins, Rahel and Estha, whose lives are shattered by what Roy calls the love loss. Who should be loved, how, and how much? এখানে সমাজ আমাদেরকে নির্ধারণ করে দিচ্ছে আমরা কাকে ভালোবাসতে পারবো, কাকে ভালোবাসতে পারবো না, আর কার সাথে মিশতে পারবো, কার সাথে মিশতে পারবো না. And this novel is set in Kerala, India, and through this one's family story, she reveals the deeply rooted issues of casteism, patriarchy, colonial legacy, and generational trauma. What struck me the most was how small things, a gesture, a word, a silence can completely ruin a life. It's not always the big tragedies that destroy us, but the small cracks that no one noticed, and that's what the book captures so painfully well. There is a quote I want to mention. It didn't matter that the story had begun, because it had begun so long ago. And it wasn't a story, it was the way things were. Lines like this hit hard. You realize this is not just fiction, this is truth for so many families and individuals across the world, especially in South Asia. Let's talk about Velutha, one of my most favorite characters in this novel. A lower caste man who dares to love outside the boundaries set by society. His story reminds me a lot of Miyarsu from The Outsider. Both are punished not for crimes, but for breaking unspoken rules. Velutha's death scene was one of the hardest parts for me. It wasn't just violent, it was cold and accepted by the system, and that moment broke me. And then there is Ammu, the mother of the twins, a woman constantly punished for wanting a life of her own. The way Indian society treats women, especially single mothers, is reflected brutally here. Ammu's silence, her strength, and her vulnerability made me feel so many things at once. And of course, the twins, Rahel and Estha, their trauma is the heart of the book. It was hard to read how society, family, and so-called duty robbed them of a normal childhood. There is a one scene where Estha just stops speaking. That silence screamed louder than any dialogue. What makes this novel unique is that it doesn't scream its message, it whispers it through images, symbol, and repetition. Roy's use of language is poetic, playful, sometimes even childish, but always powerful. এবং এটা হচ্ছে আমাকে ওই দ্য প্যাসেজ অফ ইন্ডিয়ার যে গুহাটা সেটার কথা বারবার মনে করে দেয়. Some people say it's overwritten or unnecessarily poetic, but for me, that's what made it so alive. The beauty of the language often clashes with the horror of the events, and that contrast honestly made the pain even more unbearable. And if I had to say what I loved is the emotional depth, the rhythm of Roy's sentences, the boldness of her themes, the unapologetic poetics. What I disliked or rather found difficult was how heavy and disturbing it felt. It drained me emotionally, and maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe that's exactly what good literature is supposed to do. অ্যান্ড অবভিয়াসলি লনলিনিয়ার যে স্ট্রাকচারটা এটা হচ্ছে হয়তোবা যারা মানে প্রথম দিকে শুরু করবে পড়া তাদের হয়তোবা একটু প্যারা দিতে পারে, এবং হচ্ছে যেহেতু আমরা রিলস দেখতে দেখতে অভ্যস্ত, সো আমার যেটা হচ্ছিল যে বারবার হচ্ছে আমার ব্যাক যেতে হচ্ছিল এই মানে ফ্লোটাকে বা হচ্ছে ফোকাসটাকে ধরে রাখতে, একটু হচ্ছে লনলিনিয়ার হওয়ার কারণে বারবার হচ্ছে ট্র্যাকটা একটু প্রথম দিকে হারিয়ে যাচ্ছিল. সো ইয়া, আই হ্যাভ এ লাভ হেট রিলেশনশিপ উইথ দিস বুক. It's not something I would casually recommend it to everyone, But if you care about literature that speaks about pain, injustice, and love in all its broken forms, this is a must read. And thank you so much for watching. I hope my review gave you a clear idea of the book, what it's about, how it feels, and why it matters. If you have read it, I would love to hear what lines or moments stayed with you. And if you haven't, I really recommend giving it a chance. Take care and see you in the next one.